This is my E-Ride Pro SR, and today we're installing Moto Brakes. When you open up your box with your Moto Brake kit for your 3.0 or your SR, this is what you're gonna see. Almost all of our other kits are the same, except the rotor might be different for a different bike. But you got your rotor, your dual or single caliper bracket, and then of course, your rear brake assembly. So first things first, we're gonna pop that bracket off of the caliper, swap the hardware onto our Moto Brake caliper bracket. Alrighty boys, first things first, let's take this pad spacer, get it out of there. Then we're gonna slide the UltraBee bracket off of the caliper. And then you're gonna wanna heat this up with a torch for maybe 10 seconds because this is filled with Loctite. And then either use a wrench or a deep well socket and voila. Pop off that little rubber slider as well as the brass pad spacer. Now we've got our Moto Brake dual caliper bracket here. What I'm gonna do is take just a tiny bit of blue Loctite, put it on the threads right there like so. Just get these threads started a little bit. You can see I tightened it, but I didn't tighten it a ton. I'd recommend you use a wrench, not an impact. Now we're gonna take that pad spacer and it goes here. All right, so one little tip, guys, you can see this thing can slide up and down a bunch right there, right? If you put this on your bike, right, and then you hear a squeaking noise right away, there's a good chance this thing is just slid down too far and the rotor's tapping it right here. So what you wanna do is slide it pretty much all the way to the top and come down just a tiny bit. And that should be about perfect, but we'll find out when I get it on the bike. Now we're just gonna put that rubber slider, boom. Now you can see all the hardware is transferred to our Moto Brake dual caliper bracket. Alrighty boys, the next step here is going to be removing this back wheel. So I got a 6mm Allen key on that side and a 17mm socket on this side. I'm just gonna lightly tap the axle out. And then I'll take my Allen key and use it to push the axle through. Now I can grab my wheel and slide the axle all the way out like so. One little trick to show you guys here. If you take your chain and you sneak it off like so, then you leave it over your swing arm like this. So much easier to put on when we go to put it back on in 10 minutes. Boom. Alrighty boys, now that the rear wheel has been removed, we're just gonna remove a bunch of these small plastic bits so we can feed our brake line through the frame and remove the old brakes without cutting the line at all. Now this plastic piece here slides right out. Next, we're gonna remove the bash guard bolt, our top motor mount, and this bolt right here to take out that tray. Those first two were just a 5mm Allen key. This one you need a 13mm wrench for the nut on the back. It'll pop right out with a 5mm Allen key on the other side. The motor mounts are a 6mm Allen key. We'll pop this bolt all the way out, and this one we're just gonna loosen. Now we're popping off this cover. That's a 4mm Allen key. The other bolt is hiding right here. All right, other side of the bike now, same exact thing. Like so. Now at the front of the bike, you should be able to pop your bash guard down. You can see there's a zip tie right here holding the wire for your kickstand sensor. I'm gonna cut that off so we don't hurt this wire. Okay, so next we're gonna pop this belt off. I'm standing over the bike and I'm gonna lift the motor all the way up, which will relieve tension on the belt, and then we can slide it like so, right off of there. Then the motor should, there we go, tilt forwards like that. Alrighty boys, you're gonna notice I got a little box here. That's so I can set the motor on the box. What I'm gonna do here is pop the motor mount on this side fully off. Should stay, perfectly staying, wonderful. Go to the other side. Perfect. All right, we're looking up at the underside of the battery tray, and we're gonna remove these two Phillips head screws that are here, holding in your tip over sensor. We got one, throwing you guys all over the place. Sorry about that. Tip over sensor removed. I've got you guys at a super weird angle right now, but it's for good reason. This bolt is super difficult to see, and this is what we need to remove to get that battery tray out of here. There's one on both sides. So this is the side, obviously, that the motor's pulley belt system is on, and there's one more over there on the other side. I hate that they put these bolts on the inside of the frame. So hard to reach these. You gotta pull the whole motor. Not a fan. E-Ride, one of your engineers is watching. Please, you and SurRon both, fix this in your next bikes. Put the bolt on the outside. The other one will be hiding right here by your 12-volt converter. That second one was much easier to get out. Okay, finally, the moment we've been working toward. Battery tray will now pop right out. just like so. Just to make it make sense for you guys why I did all that, your brake line is ran under that battery tray. So to get the new brake line in correctly, we got to do all that. You definitely can do it another way and maybe run it, you know, through here or down along that edge or something, but this is the correct way to route your brake line. Now that the horrible part is done, we got to cut a zip tie here, and we got to remove this 3mm Allen bolt on the top of the controller to release that stock brake line. Boom. Finally, the last step in removing that front brake system. Clip that zip tie, pull these 2 bolts. Voila! One thing to note quick, boys, this is the stock brake sensor. I just removed it from the master cylinder on the E-Ride. Then I took my UltraBee master, popped off the brake sensor that comes on it, and then I'm just gonna push the lever in a little bit. You'll notice there's a little button here on the bottom side. You kind of get that to go in, boom, like so, and then tighten it on down. And now you just kept your stock brake sensor. Now we're ready to install our moto brake. So I loosened up these 2 and this 1 bolt here on my triple clamp, right? And I took my stanchion, grabbed it here and down there with my other hand, and then pulled it down. So there's a little gap here. What I'm gonna do is slide this brake line through that gap, like so, and then I'll slide this back up and tighten those back down, making sure that this side and that side are perfectly matching. Slid that stanchion back up through the triple clamp, tighten these 2, tighten that one, torqued them all to spec, 12 Newton meters, made sure that this top piece here was matching that side. Now we're good to go. Now we can toss the moto brake master cylinder onto the handlebars. Right now, I'm just gonna loosely fit it up here, get it like finger tight, and then before I ride the bike, I'll set it to the exact position that I like it in. Perfect. Now we need to take our brake line and route it back through the bike just like the stock one was. So we're gonna come up through the frame there, back out the side here. Obviously it sits right back there. We've got it laid out in the placing we want it to be in. Just gotta be careful when we put everything back to make sure that that brake line stays where we want it to be. Before we finish putting the bike back together, I really need to point this out. This is definitely not the correct position. The factory should not be putting these like this. So if your assembly came like this, you're gonna wanna loosen this nut just barely, because you don't want to break that pressure seal much. You just got to be able to move it like that. What we want is to get it facing downwards. Perfect. So the reason that we have it facing down like this instead of up is because when it's facing up, the air bubbles will hide in here. But right now the air bubbles have to come up the line and bloop right into your master. So make sure that yours looks just like this. I'm not going to bore you guys with putting everything back together. Video's not quite finished yet, but I'm going to put most of it back together. Then I'm going to show you guys what we do on the back end. So go ahead and do everything we did to take this apart in opposite order, but be sure to leave your brake line routed. Should sit just about like that, right about there when you put your battery tray in, and then you want it to come out right here next to your jack shaft cover, and then it'll be held in by this here. So I'm gonna put all that back together quick, and then I'll show you guys what we do on the back end of the bike. Let's pop this rotor off and throw the moto brake rotor on. T30 Torx, by the way. Rotor bolts always get a little bit of Loctite. Not a ton, just a little bit of blue Loctite like that. Now I'm gonna use my impact to snug them, and then we'll torque them to 10 Newton meters. Boom, boom, boom. Done. Before we can put our caliper onto the caliper bracket, we do need to take a little bit of grease and put it on this pole here. You don't need to like cake it on there, you just need to get a little layer. Then I'll go to the caliper itself and put about the same amount of grease onto this pole. And that right there is about perfect. Now we can take our caliper and our bracket and put them together like so. The final step, installing the wheel, and we're done. I already greased my axle. I'm gonna set it up on the seat for now, and then snag this dual caliper bracket. Now, the #1 trick for this part is to slide the caliper over the rotor and get the bracket to click onto the wheel spacer like that, and then slide it in here like so. Boom. Super quick and easy process. Now back to the beginning when I said to leave your chain over the swing arm, that is so you can do this. Put your chain over your sprocket a little bit, spin your wheel, and boom, that little hard part is done. Now we throw our washer and our axle nut, tighten that down, and we're good. Voila! There you have it, folks. That is the full step-by-step removing your stock brakes and installing moto brakes onto your E-Ride Pro 3.0 or SR. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave any of your questions down in the comments below. And I'll see you boys in the next video when we install a foot brake on the E-Ride Pro. Peace.